here with Chad Buchanan, the intern general manager of the Portland Trailblazers. How you feeling today, Chad?
Very relieved tonight. Happy to walk out of here with 2 picks. So exciting night for our team, and it was very excited for our future.
What are your thoughts here on this draft class from what you've studied so far? Is it a good draft? Is it a deep draft?
I think it's a good draft. I think there's obviously a very talented player at number 1. I think there's a lot of guys after him that are kind of in a big group. There's not a huge difference, I don't think, from about 2 to about 7 or 8. It's kind of your flavor of maybe what type of player you like, maybe what your team needs, how patient you're willing to be with a player. So I think there's some talent, throughout the lottery, and we're excited to have the opportunity to grab 2 of those guys potentially.
How does having 2 lottery picks affect your strategy in terms of who you pick with that first one? Can you afford to roll the dice a little bit more?
That's a good question. I think we got to go for the best talent. Regardless of position, regardless of age, we need talent to our roster. We've kind of we've shuffled our future a little bit with some of the moves we made at the trade deadline to look towards a little bit more of a longer-term picture and longer-term vision. But at the same time, we got to continue to add talent to this roster. We need to try to find a guy to complement LaMarcus, and whether that's another interior player or backcourt player, we just got to find the best player available at both picks, and we'll also be very open to looking to move one or both of those picks as well if it's the right move to help our team.
Right. How does this draft stack up in terms of point guards? It's clearly a position of need. Looking at the free agent situation, is that something that you think you look toward at 6 or more at 10?
I think it's still going to be best player available. The point guard position, there's a few prospects that'll probably be in our range that we'll take a close, hard look at, but, we're not going to be afraid to, draft a player at a different position if we feel like he's a higher caliber talent. And then, we do have to address our point guard position, and, at that point we may look at a trade, we'll probably look at free agency, but it's definitely a position of priority for us this offseason.
Any thoughts on possibly moving up? I'm sure there's some teams there that the 6 and 2 lottery picks would be a great haul for them instead of 1.
Yeah, I think all of us, most teams will inquire. You're going to do your due diligence, see if there's an opportunity to move up. Very rarely do teams way up there, want to move a pick like that, but you never know. We'll be just as thorough as I'm sure every other team will be in the league, trying to see if there's an opportunity to land a good young talent.
On a personal note, how does it affect you going into this process, not knowing kind of your status for next year? Are you definitely going to continue with Portland, and how does that affect the whole draft process?
Yeah, I would love to continue to remain with the Blazers. It's been, all I know as far as my time in the NBA. This is my 8th season with the team. I have a lot invested with the team, and love the people I work with, love the city of Portland. But at the same time, I've taken the mindset of whatever's in front of me, I'm going to do the best job I can. If my job status is up in the air, then it's not going to take away from my distraction of working the best I can on what's in front of me. And whatever happens, in the coming days or coming weeks or coming months or whatever is kind of out of my control, and I'm not going to spend a lot of time worrying about it. I'm just going to focus in on trying to get this organization ready for our draft and for free agency.
All right, Chad. Thanks so much. I appreciate it. Best of luck.
You got it, John. Thanks.